This week on In Depth, we spend the day at the Texas home of George Foreman.
There's nothing wrong with being knocked down in life. It's about getting up.
The oldest boxer ever to win the heavyweight championship of the world.
The fondest memory from that fight would be what?
People were cheering for me. People were praying for me.
The Olympic gold medalist reflects on growing up poor in Houston's Fifth Ward, the resulting anger that fueled him in the ring.
You wanted to kill Muhammad Ali.
I'm going to kill one of these fellows, then they'll shut up.
And how the aftermath of one fight changed his life forever.
And I realized I was about to die in a dirty old dressing room.
Plus, the origins of the famous George Foreman grill and a tour of his enormous car collection. All that's coming up right here on In Depth.
I want to take you back to when you were a younger boy growing up. You were the fifth of 7 children. Your mother really did everything she could to make ends meet. How scarce was food for you guys back then at the time?
I was always hungry. There was never enough food for various reasons. My mother was she couldn't afford to have, 3 meals every day, but on Sundays, there would be one meal that would last all days, and whatever she would fix would be just fine with us.
I understand you wouldn't be able to afford to bring lunch for yourself to school. So in those instances, what would you do with the brown paper bag?
It's such a shame when you're so poor and you don't want everyone else to know that you're so poor. Really, you're not poor, you're po. And a couple of days would go to school certain times, and you didn't want the kids to know how destitute you were. So you take a paper bag with a little grease on it, and then show the kids, like, I ate my sandwich on the way to school. That's why I don't have any lunch today. You make preparation for those things.
So very early on in your life, you win an Olympic gold medal. A few years after that, you become heavyweight champion of the world. And you've spoken about before how, even though you were having all this professional success at that time, you were pretty angry. Looking back on that now, why do you think that was?
Anger is something generally just discontent. It all started with not having enough to eat growing up, looking for more and more to eat and not having that kind of satisfaction. Then all of a sudden, you get into boxing where anger is applauded. I met Sonny Liston. He became my role model. And he was he had to be the most angry fella I'd met. He'd look right through you, scare you. And I thought, if I'm going to be successful in boxing, I'm going to have to learn how to utilize anger.
You said you were such a bad guy outside of the ring that people saw the best of you inside the ring. How so?
Oh, when I was in the ring, you really saw the best of me. Outside the ring, I was really some terrible fellow because I did some things to people that mostly, in the ring, I'm not ashamed of my boxing matches, but outside the ring, some of the things we did, I did, I'm ashamed of to this day.
What are some of the things that you regret?
I regret really the way you treat people, and I could go on and on with stories, but like I said, there's nothing to be proud of.
Speaking to kind of your mentality as a boxer back then, you wrote about how you wanted to kill Ken Norton in your fight with him, and then when that didn't happen, you wanted to kill Muhammad Ali in your fight with him, literally kill. Why?
You get to be heavyweight champ of the world. I've defeated Joe Frazier, had one title defense, and everyone knew that I had beaten the best in Joe Frazier. No doubt about it, I had beaten the best. People had something to say about that. I said, you know what? I'm going to kill one of these fellows, then they'll shut up. And it wasn't about Ken Norton or Muhammad Ali. It was like anyone I'd met in the ring. I said, I'm going to kill one of these guys, then they'll know that I'm the best.
The rumble in the jungle against Muhammad Ali in Zaire, Africa. You said in your book it featured more unexplained happenings than any event in your life. Explain what happened during the ref's count when you were down that made you believe it was suspect.
The fight And I lost the boxing match to Muhammad Ali. I got beat genuinely. I've got photographs where I'm on the canvas and the referee counting over me. I lost that boxing match. I had a lot of complaints after that boxing match. The ropes were too loose. The referee counted too fast. And I had something in my water. I have lots of excuses, but it still doesn't bring it back and make it a win. I've learned to live with that.
And you mentioned the picture that you have of yourself on the mat. Explain why you view that positively now.
I became an evangelist full-time, got a new little house, 3 bedrooms. I was really happy with my place. And the only picture of my past I displayed was a photograph of Muhammad Ali standing over me and mine looking up, being knocked down and losing the championship of the world. First of all, I was proud that I was in such a match. And secondly, there's nothing wrong with being knocked down in life. It's about getting up.
How tense was the moment when you got your kids and you were back at your hotel?
I said, to get my kids, you're gonna have to kill me. I heard someone say, kill him then.
Tell about going to Barbados many years back secretly to take back 2 of your kids that were, unbeknownst to you, taken by your then wife there.
Now, I woke up one day and I came home and all my kids were gone. I had 2 kids just disappeared, a son and a daughter, and I couldn't find them. Found out they were in a small island called St. Lucia in the West Indies. I rented a plane. I couldn't afford all of these. I flew to Barbados, and I sat there in Barbados, then rented a private plane for St. Lucia. I remember even having to keep the pilot wake with coffee and have a friend of mine make certain he didn't get drunk again so he can fly us into the island and fly us back. And when I got there to get the kids, all I did wanted to bring them back home. So I had to literally steal my kids, get on a boat, charter a boat that didn't work that very well, sail all the way to other islands, then back into Barbados, then back into the United States of America.
How tense was the moment when you got your kids and you were back at your hotel and then people showed up at the door?
Yeah, you get your children, you're back at the hotel, and I look out and there were a load of policemen. They were soldiers actually, and a truckload of them with bullets around them, telling me to let the kids go. And I remember screaming, I'm not letting my kids go. These are Americans. These are my children. Oh, then you realize you have a name then, an American. And they didn't take my kids. They gave me the next day to get things straight, and the next day I was back in the United States of America.
And was there concern at that time? You didn't know what these guys were gonna, you thought they were gonna kill you?
I said, to get my kids, you're gonna have to kill me. And I heard someone say, kill him then.
That's actually how you met your current wife, Joan. She was the caretaker for your kids when they were in Barbados. Joan, 5th wife. Why do you think, having been married before, this marriage has been so successful when the other one struggled?
In the past, I'd get married and I always thought that someone needed me. I'm George Foreman, they need me. But when I met my current wife, my wife, Mary, we call her Joan, I needed her. And I know I need her, and she's always known that I needed her. And that's the difference.
Explain the importance of family to you.
Well, I have a family of 10 kids, by the way. Family is most important to me. You accumulate a lot of things, you do a lot of things, but at some point you look up and say, it was all for family. You forget that you had all these personal goals way back. This is my life now, family.
You found out who your biological father was much later on in life, and you've said that played a role in the decision to name all of your sons George. Explain why.
Yeah, you look around for some roots and you can't find anything, so you decide you better plant something. I met my biological dad. I was already been heavyweight champ of the world and a grown man, and I didn't want my kids to be in that position. I wanted them to have something in common, And I figured, why not give them a name, George Edward Foreman? They're all called the same. And I tell them, if one goes up, we all go up. If one gets in trouble, we're all in trouble. It's a family name.
Happened in the locker room, 28 years old, 1977 loss to Jimmy Young.
A gigantic hand reached in and pulled me out of nothingness.
Why get a lion and a tiger?
People ask me all the time, what do you do with a lion and a tiger? Well, to be a boxer, number one, you gotta be stupid. You gotta halfway be crazy. That's why you get a lion and a tiger. You're absolutely out of your mind.
Tell about what happened in the locker room, 28 years old, 1977 loss to Jimmy Young.
Jimmy Young had won the boxing match. Went back into the dressing room, and that's when my life changed. Went back, started walking, trying to cool off as normal. You don't have to worry about the boxing match. You're still George Foreman. You got money. You got cars. You could go to your ranch, retire, and die. And I'd never said a word like that before. Die. After a while, it started to multiply. Death. And I realized I was about to die in a dirty old dressing room when I had all these places to live in the world. And as I was walking back and forward, heard a voice, why are you afraid to die? And I'd been talking about, I used to go out and talk about religion to everywhere, you know, about God, because I figured you can get some fans. Muhammad Ali had talked about Muslim, he got fans. I figured I was gonna make, and the voice said, you believe in God, why are you scared to die? I said, man, everybody believe in God, but I don't wanna die. Before I could say another word, all of my life went out of me. My leg gave out of me, and I was in this deep, dark place. All around me was nothing. Like every sad thought, if you multiplied them together, there was nothing, no hope. Like someone had dropped me in the deep sea and not a boat or an island anywhere. I got mad, because I'm the guy with lions and tigers. I didn't get scared. I said, I don't care if this is death, I still believe there's a God. When I said that, a gigantic hand reached in and pulled me out of nothingness. Just nothing. Evidently, they picked me up off the floor and laid me on the table. And I remember saying, hey, I'm dying, everybody, but tell everybody I'm dying for God. Because I'd been saved from the thing that I was most afraid of, death. And I started screaming, Jesus Christ is coming alive in me. And I didn't believe in religion. I thought it was for idiots. People who lose their girlfriends to go to church, people who lose their money to go to church. I had my money, still had a girlfriend.
And these are words that would never have come out of your mouth
Jesus
before
Christ
that.
is coming alive in me. And I jumped off the table, started screaming, hallelujah, I'm clean, born again. I went toward the door and they stopped me because I didn't have any clothes on. I said, I got to tell the world. And I've never stopped screaming that to this day.
We had the chance to visit the Church of the Lord Jesus Christ, which is where you preach. How often do you still preach today?
I'm in services on Wednesdays, Saturdays, and Sunday evening, and the early Sunday mornings worshiping service on Sunday morning. And that's what I do. That's my profession.
What sort of preparation is involved?
Being an evangelist and a preacher, I don't have to prepare. It just happens. That's what I do. It's the only thing I do naturally.
Really?
No preparation needed.
You made a substantial amount of money during your first boxing career before the decade-long retirement, but before you came back. How much money had you gone through, and how close were you to being out of it?
I'd made millions in my first career, literally millions of dollars. And by the time 10 years had gone by, I realized that I wanted to do a lot of good, and it took money to do it. I did a lot of things with money, and I looked up and didn't have the kind of money I wish I had. I was no longer the wealthy boxer who had undertaken being an evangelist.
To what extent is that largely the reason you decided to come back for additional funding for the charitable purposes?
One day I was out playing basketball with one of my attorneys. And he wanted, we were playing ball, but he wanted to be serious with me and didn't know what to do. He said, George, you have this place, but you got to be careful. You may become one of those bad stories like Joe Louis, a guy who had so much money and lost everything. And, you know, this place is costing you a lot of money, the George Foreman Youth Center. I'm worried about having funds for this place that these kids need me. And that's when I decided I was going to have to do something, raise some money. And I decided right then, I know how to get money. I'm going to be heavyweight champion of the world again. That's how I was getting money from my youth center.
45 years old, you end up winning the bout to become heavyweight champion of the world, oldest ever. 20 years after you had lost to Muhammad Ali in Zaire. The fondest memory from that fight would be what?
I'm in the ring fighting Michael Moore for the championship of the world, and once again, I didn't expect it. People were cheering for me. People were praying for me. First time around, everybody was praying for the other guy. Now, I'm a victim of prayer. And the fight is over. I get a knockdown the 10th round. I looked around, satisfied my fans, because I said I was gonna come back not for money, but to be heavyweight champ of the world. That's how I'm gonna get my money. So I looked up, and I said, if I win this thing, I never talk religion on television, but I said, if I win this thing, I'm gonna get on my knees and thank God right there. And I did, I got on my knees and I thanked God right on the spot.
At what point did you know you were on to something?
All of a sudden, the checks just started rolling in. This thing sold over 100 million.
The George Foreman grill. To what extent has it changed your life?
People would pay you a lot of money to do a commercial, but then after a period of time, they move on to someone else. And finally, a friend of mine said, George, you're making all these other companies wealthy. Why don't you get your own product? I said, sure, how much are you gonna pay me? I said, no. We're not gonna pay you. Get your own product. We started looking for a great product, and we found one. No one wanted to be bothered with it at all, this thing. You know, no, they had names for it, jokes for it. Mm-hmm. But I took it and they said, try that. And I didn't want to use it, but my wife insisted. She said, it works, George. And the grease really rolled off and it's still tender. I ate it. I said, boy, let's do it. We formed a joint venture, which means I'd have the lion's share, but I'd have to make it prominent. I'd have to go out and promote it.
At what point did you know you were on to something?
Well, I never expected it to be so successful. I got a check once for like $1,500. I said, what? Couldn't believe it.
Really?
Then I got another check for $15,000. And then all of a sudden the checks just started rolling in. This thing sold over 100 million.
And to give the check some context too, you end up being bought out, I think, for something like $140 million after what you had already made. Is it true? I mean, at one point, checks were coming in for upwards of like $4 million monthly?
5 million.
5 million monthly, but before the $140 million
yeah,
buyout.
Before. I'd fought my last boxing match at Atlantic City, and everyone said, "You were robbed. You were robbed, George." They were booing the fight, and there, my attorney had brought me a check for $1 million royalty on the grill. I said, that's not what we call being robbed. In my day, when you were robbed, you didn't have anything.
So tell me about how the love for cars even first came about.
I've always liked cars, and even now I have a collection. I have a black 1977 Volkswagen Beetle. It's convertible. If you take every car I had, that's the one car I wouldn't sell because it was the only car I really wanted, and the other cars are just dressing around it.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm going to head out there and take a look at the cars. I doubt the Volkswagen is the most expensive of the bunch.
No, it's not the most expensive, but it's cherished with me because you never forget where you come from.
How many cars or automobiles do you have in the collection?
I really don't know because I've taken to hiding them from my wife now, and some are in different places.
More than 50?
Yeah, more than 50.
All right, so I'm here with George Foreman.
Yep.
Not the one we were just talking to.
Not the big one.
On camera, but so where do you fall in the order?
I'm George Foreman the fourth. So I'm the third son, fourth George, eighth child.
So tell me where we are.
This is the garage, the car collection of George Edward Foreman Sr. So this is one of George's Corvettes. George is a big Chevy lover. This is the 360 Spider. As we go through, I've had to kind of repair and fix them all in my lifetime.
Ferrari?
This is the Ferrari. When he got this, it was an instant classic in the garage because everyone wanted to find out if this was faster than the Ferrari F40.
How fast does it go?
I think the top speed's in like the 200s.
Is this your favorite car?
It's hard to say a favorite. I've driven almost all of the cars in the garage. Some he doesn't know I've driven. We have 67, 64 Chevys and Corvettes and Lamborghinis. When he got the Maybach, I just didn't know that you can spend that much on a car.
And what was it?
I don't know, I feel comfortable saying.
And here we are.
All right, get comfortable, man. Relax, recline. This is the pleasure of being in the Maybach is you get all the room you want.
So this is all
part of George's 40 acres, I guess. Yeah, so we moved here in 2003. As soon as the house was done being built. And this has been his home ever since. So he goes to church, he goes around the world, he always comes back here. This was kind of his paradise.
So did you do that?
Yeah.
Okay, I wasn't sure if it was one of the kids.
No.